Our very first discussion here on Weekend Express. It's just about 8:33 Nairobi time. And let me introduce to you the lady who will be taking us through her own personal story and sharing with us as we discuss millennial parenting. Online, she's known as Yummy Mommy. But officially, she's known as Joanne Munyi. It's so good to have you with us, Joanne. You look so adorable. I love the earrings.
Thank you. They were a gift from a company. I can't remember what they're called.
Right.
They're so beautiful, so African.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. So let's begin with this. Just even for the sake of our audience, take me through your story. How did you find yourself as a parent? And that's, I think, the best way for us to define millennial parenting. So take me through your story.
Okay, so let me explain to you where I am now, then I tell you how I got there.
Beautiful.
So, I'm currently married to my husband, who I love with all my heart.
Yes.
And we have 2 children. I have an 8-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter.
Okay.
But my son, I got him from a previous relationship when I was 19 years old.
Yes.
It was that typical story of, like, you have just joined campus, like literally campus tumeanza tu hivi. First semester, first year, first sem. And I mean, yeah, it was... It was very hectic. My parents were like, Sasa huyu tumemtuma huko, she's just going to get pregnant. And it was very difficult, but I did manage to finish my degree. Of course, at that point, I was with the guy who was now currently my ex, and for a while I was a single parent, which of course had its own challenges. But fast forward to 2016, I met my husband, and we fell in love, and we got married, and he and my son now have an amazing relationship.
Wow.
He's pretty much like his dad now.
Right.
Yeah, and we have now the 1-year-old who we are struggling with. She's at a very unique stage right now where she cries about everything, but we are managing.
Okay, so here you are at 19. Like you said, at that point in time, perhaps even society or family and friends looked at you like, oh my goodness, she's become the typical university girl. She went to university and became pregnant.
Yeah.
So then how would you begin to encourage other girls who are, or even as well men, who have found themselves in your situation where at a young age in university they have become the stereotype of university students?
The first thing that I would say is that it's, and I remember this because the day that I told my mom I'm pregnant, this is exactly what she told me. She said, Joanne, just remember we still love you and your life is going to take a different path. Doesn't mean it's going to be a bad path. It just means it will be different from how other people have been living it.
Right.
And nothing defines millennial parenting more than that. Right now you see so many more people having children before they actually get married. Not to say that it's wrong or right, but the fact is that it's happening. But what I always tell people is it's not the end of your life.
How did that change your life? Because like you said, moms say that your life is going to change.
Yes.
How did that change your life?
I mean, a lot.
How was like a day-to-day life for you?
It was not like my friends for sure, because guys would go to class and then of course they go out dundaing, you know. For me it was, I go to class because I was staying with my son and my nanny now right near school, and I was in USIU at the time. So for me it was straight to school, straight back home, straight to school, straight back home, because of course now the child was in the formative years, at least for the first 2 or 3 years.
Right.
So I needed to be with him, like, I mean, very, very often. So, of course, it meant less time with, you know, going out, less time, having time to party. And, of course, at that time, now when you have a child, it really sobers you up.
It does.
Because there's this child who looks up at you, and to them, you're the world. To them, they don't know that mom is shunned by society, mom is this. Them, they just know mom is everything, you know? And you look into their eyes and you're like, now I can't afford to fail. So, if anything, I would say having my child is what drove me to have to succeed, you know? Because it's like, you have no option. You can't fail. There's someone depending on you. Yeah. And, you know, when you don't have that child, it's just like, yeah, I mean, I have my time. I can go to class if I want. I can choose to. But when you have a kid, you don't have that luxury.
Right. Do you see as if the way you handle parenting is different from perhaps the way your mother handled parenting? In short, the way our generation handled parenting, is there a distinctive difference between how the older generation handled parenting? And just give me a few examples of that.
I think 100% definitely yes. For so many reasons. The times are so different now, so different.
Right.
There are so many things that are different about how I parent compared to the way I remember my mother parenting me.
Okay.
The first thing is that I feel like our generation has come to a place where we accept that there is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to parenting. You can choose to breastfeed. I choose not to breastfeed. Or I am unable to breastfeed, so I choose another option. You can choose to sleep train your baby. I choose not to sleep train my baby. At our parents' day and age, it was almost like, this is what you need to do for you to be a good mom. If you're not doing this, you're not a good mom. But I feel like our generation now, because we are so in tune with so much information, everybody's like, no, I may have done my research and I want to go this direction. And it's okay. You can go another direction. It's okay. Which is one thing that I love. You know, you can't question my choices just because yours are different. The other thing is right now, we don't have the luxury of not answering our kids' questions. You know, when we were growing up, your child could come and ask you, Mom, and just like, acha kuniuliza hizo maswali. Right now, you can't do that. Because if you don't give them the right information, they're going to go on the internet, they're going to go on social media, they're going to go ask their friends, and they will still find that information, but it might be the wrong information. So right now, we are in an age where my son is 8, but the questions he asks me, I'm like, gosh, you know, and I can't just tell him, don't ask me that, because the reality is that his friends are watching things, you know, people are talking about things, so I need to be the one who feeds him information. And then also, of course, now there's the age of internet and what our parents, of course, they will tell us, go outside to play. Right now, you know, we can tell them, okay, you know, play this game on the iPad. You have to actually monitor what they're doing on TV, because a lot of times when they're on TV, they are maybe on the phone. You need to really be a lot more vigilant, I feel. I feel like in my parents' age, you could just trust. You go outside, the child goes outside to play, you don't even know, they come back at like 6 p.m.
Right.
With us, we have to be more vigilant, very intentional about how we parent the child.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, Joanne, that's true right there, because I remember even once my little cousin, a contraceptive ad came up, and she asked, what's that?
Exactly.
And you know, you had to explain to her in a way that she only understands.
Yeah. And kids are smart these days.
They are
so smart. You can't just tell them, you know, that's just a sweet. They're like, no, but I can see that they have put a woman and there's a man there. So why is he there? What does that mean? And you're like, you have to say something.
So paint for me the challenges, the unique challenges. Of course, parenting in general, in totality, have their own challenges. But paint for me a more distinctive challenge of the ones that you think that millennial parents face. Yeah.
One key challenge is you're not everything to the child.
Wow.
You know, when we were growing up, if you wanted information, it's your mother. If your mother said it now, that's what it is. But right now, as in, there's so many places that he can get information. It's so hard to actually filter that information to the point where it really makes you scared. Like me personally, I feel scared sometimes. I'm like, I don't know what my son could see somewhere. I don't know what he could watch. I don't know what someone could tell him, you know? And it's just up to me to try and ensure that he knows that ultimately, when I tell him this is actually what it is. That's the first thing. Then the second thing is, I mean, right now we're in that age of, okay, people still beat their children, but guys are like, you know, don't be cruel to the child. And other people are like, I mean, kids are having so much more freedom, standing up to you, and you're like, me in my day, I could never do that, you know? So, I mean, there's a challenge of trying to find a balance between, I want him to have freedom to be able to make his own decisions, but at the same time, I need him to know that I'm still in charge, which can be really difficult because the world keeps telling you this, be your own person, you know, you make your own rules, you can do what you want, whether it's, I mean, any kind of wayward behavior that they may get into, you know?
Right.
So that is, I mean, that's a real challenge. And I'm seeing, right now, I don't even have, none of my kids are teenagers yet.
And you can already feel it.
I can already feel it. Well, yeah, and I imagine it's going to be a challenge. But what I always say is that God, who gives us the kids, is the one who's going to give us the grace to be able to weather those storms when they come.
I love that, Joanne. I truly do. Let's go back to your personal story, because I feel like before we end this conversation, perhaps a young mother or father would be inspired. So at 19, you find yourself pregnant. You are in school. Did you ever see life beyond that for yourself? Did you ever feel like, okay, this is it for me?
No, I actually didn't. And the reason for that 100% is my parents.
Okay.
Because my parents never, ever, ever let me believe that. They said, this child is not going to be a hindrance to you doing anything. In fact, he will be a stepping stone to you doing greater things.
So what do you tell young mothers and fathers who perhaps are even not married, like you said, they're in university, and even they might not be as lucky as you who had parental support.
Who have the support, because not everyone has the support.
What's your advice to them overcoming, I don't want to say this hurdle, like you said, it's a blessing, children are a blessing, but how do they overcome this and not see themselves as a failure?
It's a mental thing. You have to decide.
Okay. You
have to realize that your life is not like anyone else, and it's not like the other people's lives. Right. Your life will be significantly different, and other people might not be able to understand your struggle. But what you need to do in your mind is to decide that you are not going to be a failure. You know, I'm always telling people, when you wake up in the morning, what makes the day a good day is not the day just happening. You have to decide it's going to be a good day. Then it will be a good day because you know it's going to be a good day. It's the same way. You have to decide that your life is not going to issue there. Because if you do, by the way, no one in society is going to be there trying to help you become better, trying to help you succeed. You have to decide. And you will have to work twice as hard as everybody else.
Right.
You will have to, you know, make sacrifices that other people won't make. But you know what? You can actually make it. Like for me, I had already decided I wanted to go and do a degree abroad, which I managed to do. do. And at that point, I was like, okay, I still want to do it, but now because I have this child, I have to make additional plans. So all it requires is you'll need to go the extra mile to make the things happen, but do not give up on your dream. Do not feel like you expect less. That you deserve less. Many people who sometimes you have a child and you're like, okay, so maybe I'm not worth as much. No, do not settle for less. Do not now marry someone who you don't love just because you have a child. Don't settle for a lesser job because you have a child. Don't give up on your education or on your career just because you have a child. Let that child help you succeed. Don't let them hinder you from doing what you are destined to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Joanne, now let's talk about parenting in the sense that, especially for your son. Your son is lucky to have 3 parents.
Yeah.
You, his biological father, and now his stepdad, and who you say they have an amazing relationship together. How does parenting look like for him specifically? Is it unique compared to how your daughter's parenting is? Yeah.
It is, in our home, it's the same. In our home, between my husband and I, we parent my son the same, we parent my daughter the same. But for him, it's unique because, of course, he does have a relationship with his father, and his father does have another family. So we split time. He splits time between our home and that other home.
Right.
And what we did when I was getting married, which is just 2 years ago, actually almost 2 years ago, it'll be 2 years in March, when we were getting married, is that we sat down and we came up with an agreement between us and the father of Ethan's biological father, and we agreed, okay, so this is, and in a legal process, we agreed that this is how we are going to be dividing the time between him in terms of Christmas, in terms of Easter, in terms of even financial responsibilities, in terms of spending time with him day to day, things like that. And we signed that document, and that document guides how we now interact with him. So it's different for him because, of course, some weekends he goes to his other dad's house, some holidays he goes there for a few weeks, but all in all, he knows he's loved by them, he knows he's loved by us.
You know, John, I think that's very mature. It's very mature that both couples, you and your husband and you and his biological father with his wife, can come together and say, this is not about us, this is about this young boy, Ethan. Let's see how we can complement each other.
Yes.
Because you'll find that some couples, it's the opposite.
Yeah. And which is not fair for me, because if he already had a relationship with him before I met my husband, it would be so selfish, so unfair of me to say, now you can no longer see him, now you are now out of his life. I mean, it's really not fair, because the child is as much his as he is mine. Right. You know, so...
You know, Joanne, the other question perhaps a single parent would be asking, be it a father or mother, is... Was it difficult for you to find love? You talk about your husband and you can tell that you are happy. Because the other question as millennial parents, especially those who are not married, is that will I ever find someone who will accept me and my child?
Yeah, that one is, it's challenging. Dating is definitely different when you are a parent as opposed to when you are single. First of all, it's not just you. You and your child come as a package. You're like this, you're in the same WhatsApp. So you can't, I mean, it's really... I mean, you have to be very careful in navigating the waters. First of all, at what point when you meet someone, do you now tell them you have a child? And I always tell people, say immediately, so that immediately from the get-go, the person knows exactly what they're getting into. And I always say, do not now feel like you have to settle for less because you have a child.
So question, when is it now the right time to introduce your child to him?
It varies. But I would say when you know now the relationship has gotten serious. You see, for example, for me and my husband, in 5 months we were engaged, within 5 months of having met, and he met him like within the first month. But by that time, immediately we met, my husband and I, we already knew that we wanted to get married. So at that point, I know the relationship is not just for fun, for jokes, we are going out, we are drinking, Stuart, I'll see you next weekend. No, it's only when the relationship, you can tell that it's going somewhere and like it's serious. At that point, when you're sure about that person, that's when you introduce the child.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, Joanne, now that I have you here, we cannot discuss YouTubing.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, Joanne is also a vlogger here in Kenya. She does vlogs on her YouTube channel, Yummy Mommy. That's even her, what do I say, your brand name?
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to me about your journey. Why did you choose to go on YouTube, given that even you have a family? Right? That's the last thing perhaps quite a number of people who have young families who want to do is jump onto YouTube and share their lives. So how long ago did you start YouTube, and why did you decide to make that decision?
Okay. So before I started YouTube, I started my YouTube channel in August 2018. But before that, I was on Instagram. So I actually had built more of a fan base on Instagram.
Right.
And on Instagram, I've been sharing like very short videos of my, like short 15-second videos to 1-minute videos. And people just kept kept wanting to know more, you know, and people kept wanting to see more. And I realized on my Instagram, and initially when I started it, I didn't intend for it to be this brand. Me, I was just there, just sharing my life. You know how you just wake up, you're just sharing this, what you're doing. I'm sharing the challenges of being a single mom, sharing the challenges of parenting, getting married, you know, having the child. And I noticed more and more people were just following me. So I was like, what are these people looking for, you know? But people would tell me, wow, I find your story so inspiring. It's nice to know that there's someone who can relate to me. People would ask me questions. So at the point at which I started my YouTube channel, it's because I realized that there were many questions that many people kept asking me. So I kept having to answer people one by one, one by one, one by one, and I realized this is too time consuming. So I wanted a place I could actually curate that content that people could actually go and be able to watch it, you know? So like things, for example, you see on my video, I'll talk about things to do with marriage, things to do with motherhood, sometimes things to do with lifestyle as well. But it's like basically it's supposed to be a space where I can speak to people, and I really like talking, by the way. My husband can tell you, I really like to talk. So it's a space where I can just talk and talk and talk, and people can, you know, learn from my experiences. Because for me, whether or not I have a family, I feel like God has given me my unique story so that I can encourage other people.
How's the feedback been, given that you said a lot of people had questions to ask, be it around parenting, be it around lifestyle, etc. So how's the feedback been?
It's
moving
been
from
amazing.
Instagram to YouTube?
Oh, it's been amazing. You know, when I started, I was like, I think I'm going to take like 3 months to get to 1,000 subscribers, but I got to 15,000. Now I'm at 15,000.
Good for you.
And it's been 5 months, and I'm like, the growth has been amazing. Like, the feedback I get, some of it can be negative because, you know, there are people on the internet who don't want you to prosper, but a lot of it is positive. People are like, it's really nice to see families working. You know, so often you watch news, I mean, and sometimes it's just depressing. So this dad has done what? This husband has done what? See what? But people are encouraged by the fact that this is a family who have a unique story. I mean, it's not like our story is perfect, you know. I've started from somewhere very difficult, and now it's still a journey, you know. But I mean, people like seeing the fact that it's possible.
Did the thought of you sharing your own personal life, because here you are, you're sharing your personal life, people get to see your husband and your children. Did the thought of that, from a perspective, like where you say the internet can be a good place, but it's also a very harsh place.
Very harsh place, yes.
So did the thought of, how will people perceive my family? Will they be kind to my family? Comment section. Did that ever cross your mind? And then how do you decide how much you share with an audience?
Let me start with the second question, then answer the first one.
Sure.
How I decide, it's just gut feeling.
Okay.
So on a day-to-day, I will usually share, if it's something just kawaida, you know, like we are driving to school or we are walking somewhere. I mean, it's something just very normal. I will share it. But sometimes when I shoot something and I look at it and I'm like, oh, that's really, really personal, then I won't share it. So that one's like, I don't make a conscious decision. I just take it as it comes. It's like a minute by minute as I'm creating the content. It's just, I decide, I'm like, is this good enough? It's fine. Can I share this? I don't. As for whether I thought about how people would perceive my family, honestly, that's not something even that crosses my mind. Because I'm always telling people, you are blessed to be a blessing. If God blesses you and you don't use those blessings to bless other people, you're wasting it. Because God doesn't give you what he gives you just so that you as yourself can just enjoy it, you know? And I feel like my story has been so beautifully wound together. It's been challenging, and there are still so many challenges. But imagine how selfish I would be if I just sat with it and I don't encourage someone else who is probably a single parent watching this, you know, and just thinking, my life is over. But now they'll watch it and they'll say, okay, so actually my story can turn out okay, and you know, I can be fine. And for me, the thought that I can encourage even one person, I can encourage even 2 people out there, that for me is enough. Even if the other ones want to be negative, it's fine. But the thought that I have changed someone's life, I have given someone hope, that's all I need for me to feel like I need to continue doing this. Yeah.
What's your end goal with your YouTube channel?
I honestly don't know.
I honestly don't know. You're going with the flow.
I'm going with the flow, exactly.
People
also even ask me, how do you decide what you're going to put up? I'm like, honestly, when I wake up in the morning, I don't know what I'm going to put up. And then if I feel, I get a sense, maybe people have been asking me something, or maybe there's a topic I just feel like talking about, you know, because I'm just, to other people who are watching me, I'm a brand, maybe I'm like a TV show, but for me, it's just my life. You know, it's just my life that I'm sharing with people. So, I mean, as my life goes, I definitely hope it's going to grow. I definitely hope that I'll be able to reach a wider audience of women. I'm really passionate about helping women. I'm really passionate about helping women see how powerful they are. Because so often we're just, the number of situations people DM me and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. And I just really want to empower and encourage women as much as I can. So ultimately, I mean, that's my goal.
Right. Before we wind up the conversation, allow me to go back to millennial parenting where we started, so we can wind up the conversation.
Yeah.
What is your hope? How different perhaps would our generation should be from that of our parents? Yes.
As parents?
As parents.
Okay.
What do you think we should probably do different in a positive way that our parents did not do?
I think two things come to mind immediately when you say that. And I think one I've already mentioned, it's being intentional.
Being intentional.
Right now, you can't afford to be the kind of parent who just, you take your child to school, they come home, and you don't know who they are playing with, you don't know what they are watching, you don't know who they are talking to, you don't know what they know, you don't know what they are reading. You cannot afford to be that kind of parent. You need to be intentional about parenting that child. The second thing is informing. Right now, if you ask the people of our generation, how many of you had the sex talk with your parents?
Oh, yes.
How many of you did your parents come and sit and tell you, listen,
right, this
is how you are as a woman, this is a man, and this is what's going to happen? Most of us learn from our friends or from TV, you know? Right now, we are a generation where we cannot afford to not inform our children. We need to go out of our way to ensure that they always have the right information so that even when they encounter that wrong information out there, and they will, I mean, at some point in their lives, they will definitely come across a bad TV station or a bad internet site. But if you've already empowered them to know what the truth is, then you are setting them up for, skills, setting them up for things that they will be able to counter that negative information. And the last thing is... what was I just about to say? Oh, yes.
Being intentional.
Being intentional, exactly.
Having the talk.
Exactly, having the talk and just informing them generally about just their life, exactly. And the last one, now it has skipped my mind. I can't...
As you recall it, feel free to jump when you do. There's this thing where, especially our generation, adulting is so difficult, you know?
Sorry, I've remembered this.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
I remember this, what my mother is always saying. We need to give our children skills for life.
Wow, okay.
When you were growing up, did anyone teach you about saving?
Okay.
Things like, I don't know, personal finance management, about that one day you'll need to do your taxes. You know, things that my mom right now, when she tells me, I wish I had given these girls more skills for life. Not just things you learn about geography and what, things that you will need to navigate when you grow up. How do you choose friends? How do you decide, how do you choose a house? How do you, at what point do you...
a spouse.
Exactly, a spouse. What are the things, skills which you actually need in your actual day-to-day social life? That right now is one of the things I'm so passionate about. I want my children to be equipped. By the time I'm throwing them out into the world to say, okay, now, enda sasa, I want them to be equipped with skills for life.
You're feeling more confident.
Definitely.
I have to ask, at 19, when you had your beautiful son, did your relationship with your friends, did your friendship change? Did your friends perceive you different? Did they be like, I don't want to hang around Joanne, she's that girl?
Well, lucky for me, I've never been that person who has a huge selection of friends. People always see me and I seem like a really social person, but honestly, I have like a handful of friends. And I don't even think it changed that much because back then, I really only had like 2 close friends who I would say were my friends. And for them, it wasn't any different. In fact, they were very, very supportive. Of course, it was slightly different in that some of the activities they would go take part in, like for example, they're going to Naivasha for the weekend.
You wouldn't be able to
I can't go,
Right.
So I would miss out on some experiences and memories, but ultimately, I don't think it changed that much. I feel like I just tuned out any negativity. So even if someone was maybe like an acquaintance or a friend and now they fell off, I don't think I thought that much of it.
Okay. So Joanne, closing comments. Perhaps it would be, what encouragement would you give to millennial parents, especially those ones who do not see life after they've gotten pregnant, be it as a young lady or now being a young father?
Yeah.
What's your advice to them as your closing comment?
My advice to them would be, this is just the beginning of your life, and your life is going to be beautiful, and all you have to do is just buckle up. Don't sit in that pit. Of course, there's a moment where you will sit in a pit and feel really sorry for yourself, but don't unpack and live there. Don't set up a house there in the depression. Get up from where you are and tell yourself, okay, so this has happened. Now I need to make a plan and I need to move forward. That's what people need to do. And to parents in general, my advice would be, don't let the TV parent your child. Don't let the house help parent your child. Don't let the teacher parent your child. You should parent your child. All those people, all those things just need to help you. They just need to support you. But be involved in your children's lives so that you can be involved and you can know exactly how they will turn out because you are actually there every single step of the way. Yeah.
Joanne, thank you so much for being vulnerable, for sharing your story on national TV, and for just being you. It's amazing.
Thank you.
People to come and share a very sensitive personal side of their story like that. It's never easy, plus you never know what it does.
It's true.
So thank you, Joanne.
I hope it has helped someone out there.
Joanne Muni, aka Yummy Mommy. Go check out her YouTube channel. We were just discussing millennial parenting. Let's take a commercial break and make way for our next conversation. We'll be right back.